Welcome once again to the S.E.M podcast. Jack Bryce and Zach Hewlett are here again, and today we're joined by our friend Rebecca McLean, as you knew her, now Rebecca Abery. Did I say that right?
You did, well done. Lots of people get that wrong, but you got it right.
I must have lived in the UK for a couple of years.
That's
I'm glad I got it figured out. Well, we're glad you're here, Rebecca. Just to kind of catch up on our format, we talk about life prior to your mission and your decision to serve, and then reaction going to Scotland. Then we'll talk life after the mission, and then we'll go back through and reminisce about Scotland. So I'll give the time to you.
Okay. Can I just say, I really like the bow tie.
Oh, thank you.
I don't see them very often. Okay, so I guess going way back, I haven't always wanted to serve a mission. Like in England, for sisters anyway, we're a bit older,
Right?
But we do our education sometimes first. So I'd already done my education beforehand. I'd been to university and things like that. And so for me, it just was never something that I had considered. And it was just a conversation I had with a really close friend of mine as I was coming to the end of my degree. And he was just like, "Oh, what are you going to do now, Bex?" And I'm like, "I have no idea. I don't know. I've done graphic design. What do you do with that? I don't know."
Right.
Just, so he was like, "Oh, I think you'd be a really good missionary." So I was like, "Really?" And when you hear something and then it just kind of hits you, it's like, "Oh, actually, that's a really good idea. I think, yeah, I'll go do that." So it was a bit like that, to be honest with you. But so from that decision, so that was kind of at the end of my degree. So me actually going on my mission was quite a long time because of different circumstances. So you will have become aware that I have health issues, or had health issues, still do have health issues.
Mm-hmm.
And I can get into that a little bit in a little while. But at the time, my mum was also very ill. So she had been diagnosed with cancer. And so I ended up kind of putting that to one side, that decision, and moving back after university to my family home and kind of looking after my mum. Thankfully, she's all clear. She had a treatment and she recovered, and but that kind of, it prolonged things for me. And I don't know how you guys were, but when you made that decision, or when you make a decision about something and you kind of like, right, I'm doing it, and then it gets waylaid, it just becomes a really frustrating process.
Yeah,
and that's kind of what it was like. It became a bit of a, am I ever going to go? Is this going to happen? So my mum had health issues, and I kind of became her carer for a little while. And then, as I mentioned, I have my own health issues. So when I was born with a heart condition. So I have what's called a transposition of the greater arteries. Very long, fancy name. But basically, it just means that my heart is plumbed the wrong way around. So
wow.
You've got the 4 chambers in your heart, 2 big ones and a small one. So my small pump is what's doing all the work, and my big pump's just having a bit of a holiday, really. And that's what happens. So I had some corrective surgery where they nowadays they'll just snip the tubes and kind of change the plumbing that way.
Right.
But they haven't done that with me. They've kind of changed the shape of my heart by adding some material in there. So
wow.
I have had open heart. I have had open heart surgery twice. So one when I was 1, and then again when I was 6. So this is something that I've had like my whole life, and I just kind of crack on with it as best I can. But because of that, as a missionary, that's something that obviously you have to declare. Can't kind of get away with not telling your mission papers. And so that kind of prolonged me getting my mission papers in right at the beginning. And a few of the leaders were kind of like, not sure you're going to go, so just be prepared for, it and being a no kind of thing. My bishop at the time, who was a very close family friend, he knew the mission doctor, so he was in our area. So when I went for my mission, I lived in the Chorley area, and so the mission doctor that would have been at the MTC and stuff was actually within my ward.
Oh wow!
Well, stake boundaries, not necessarily ward. So my bishop was like, just go and say hi to doctor. I was like, what do you mean? He's like, just go and introduce yourself, because I had only kind of just moved to the area. I'd been there a couple of years, but it's such a big ward.
Sure.
You don't necessarily know everybody or anything like that. Mm-hmm. So I kind of just, went over, said hi, introduced myself, kind of thing, and went on my way. And my bishop then went over to the doctor. He's like, you see that sister you just met? That's whose papers you're looking at right now. And he's like, really? Like, because to him, being a doctor and understanding the heart and things, pictured me as this very small, weak person, and I'm not. I'm quite broad,
Right.
quite large, quite tall. So he was just like, the next day he signed my papers and off they went. So that was pretty cool.
There you go.
I kind of, it helps when you know the people that are doing it.
That's right.
So that was really interesting. But then it took a long time for my call to come back, so much so that I'd given up, if I'm honest with you. I kind of thought, right, that's it, I'm not going. It's taken however many months to get to this point. And so I applied for a permanent job here in the area that I was living, as a care assistant type thing. I'd got a permanent job. I literally started my job like the next week kind of thing. And I'd started my job, and the next day my call came. It's just like, sorry to my boss. I'm like, I've got to go and do this. I can't not go and do this. And I was made up. I was made up that it was Scotland. I think I was just made up that I was going anywhere. I was like, to be honest, I was kind of like, please don't send me to Birmingham. Nothing against anybody who's from Birmingham, but it's just not my cup of tea. No, thanks. I don't want Birmingham. Had a few friends who'd been to Ireland, and at the time it was, Scotland, Edinburgh Mission, and then the Dublin Island Mission. So I was like, yeah, Ireland, could do that, no problem. But was totally made up when it was Scotland. So yeah, I remember coming home and opening that and just being grateful. I think for me, like, okay, I'm there. I've done it.
Yeah, no kidding.
I haven't done the mission, but I've got that far to kind of get there. And interestingly, even before my mission call, things just seemed to conspire against me going. So even in my stake president interview, he's like, "Are you sure you don't want to stay home and get married?" No, I don't. I'm sorry. Like, you're okay. I'm quite okay to go on my mission. It's like, but you might not get the opportunity again. I'm like, I don't have the opportunity now, to be honest with you. So we'll just go. Thanks.
I was gonna say, did he have like someone in mind for you, or that's
no? Well,
funny.
I was kind of dating somebody. We weren't officially dating, but you kind of spend a lot of time with somebody, so it was unofficial. But no, I was like, no. I'm determined. I'm going on my mission. And then what else happened? Yeah, and then the permanent job issue and things like that. And so it was just like everything was conspiring. But the call came, and I was just like, okay, let's go. And I entered the MTC in the July of 2004. I think it was.
Okay,
I got that right. So yeah.
So July 2004. Did you go home like December of 2005?
No, I actually went home early.
Okay.
So, yeah. So I only served for a year.
Okay.
I'll explain. But ultimately, it was because of my health.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Well, good. Then take us from July of 2005. What have you been up to since then?
Okay. So when I got home, I rested an awful lot. So because I'd come home due to ill health, I took some time just to kind of have a bit of self-care for myself and get myself on an even keel that way. So for quite a while, I just was back at my parents', my mum and my stepdad's house at the time, and just got jobs here, there and everywhere that I could do. Ironically, I got a cleaning job, and I was just like, Becky, you're supposed to be resting. Why on earth are you cleaning people's houses? It's just like, come on. Yeah. But that was just me. I was just like, I've got to be doing something. I'm one of these people. I don't like to just sit still, or at least I didn't. I'm much better at it now. Just sitting still. But not back then. I was just like, I've got to be doing something. So yeah, so I rested, and then I did a few temporary jobs here, there and everywhere. And then I got my groove in education. So then I went into primary school education. Never became a teacher. The paperwork scares the heebie-jeebies out of me. So I was just like, no, we're not doing that. So I was a teaching assistant for about 13 years, and gained some qualifications to become like a higher level teaching assistant. So I could teach the class, but I didn't have all the paperwork attached to it. So best of both worlds, really.
There you go.
That's nice.
Yeah, it worked out well. And then in that time, so I've worked in education for quite a while, and in that time I met my husband again. So I knew him before the mission, but just as an acquaintance, and then we met him after the mission through Institute.
Nice.
Yeah, so that was nice, and we decided to get married. So we got married in the spring of 2006. So I'd been home just under a year, and then since then we have adopted our son. So yeah, we went through a whole adoption process and adopted a little 3-year-old. On the 4th of July, no less. There
you go.
Yeah, a couple of years later, but 4th of July, and it's a family joke. We always say, we lost our independence that day. but we love him. We really do.
That's great.
That's a double-barreled one. That's amazing.
So yeah, but it's been a whirlwind. I think being a parent, nothing prepares you for me. Not even 13 years of education in primary schools prepared me to be a parent. And I'm a parent of a teenager now, so that's a whole new world in itself. So, but yeah, and then go on.
I didn't ask you early on, but where do you live now? Where are you currently living?
Okay, so I live in the north of Scotland. I don't live in Scotland. The north of England. In Lancashire, so just north of Manchester. Oh, nice. I live in a little countryside area there, in a little valley. Sure. So yeah, hills around me. It reminds me of the days of Scotland every day of these hills. Great. Yeah, so
that's wonderful.
Lancashire is where I am at the moment. I have been since I got married, actually. Yeah, so this is the longest place I've ever lived in my life. It's
wow.
Good.
Good for you. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, good.
Yeah, so that's it, really.
Well, then take us back to, I'm sure it was an interesting transition for you living in Chorley at the time to go to the MTC, but talk to us a little bit about that, and then we'll go into Scotland.
Okay, yeah, so the MTC, I've actually popped this down, how weird it was. So on my notes that I've got here, I was like, it was crazy, because Chorley, I can't remember how many wards it had at the time. I think it was only 2. I think there's like 3 or 4 wards there now. But like I would know all of the members. So when we went to the MTC, like I knew the MTC teachers, and like it was just bizarre. And like my mum would send stuff into the MTC for me, and she'd be and I know this because she's told me this, but she'd be like waiting at the church to see if she could come down, and they're like, no, you're not allowed. So yeah, so that was interesting. That was fun. And my MTC, I really loved the MTC. I know that some people struggle with it, but for me, just to be in that bubble for a little while was just really good for me. Had great MTC companions. I think, if I'm right, Sister Malin. Mm-hmm. Yeah, she was my MTC companion, or one of them. I was in like a try, and then I was with a Sister Smith, but she went to Ireland. I think she was in the Irish Mission.
Nice.
Yeah, but like we had a huge group that went to Scotland from our MTC group.
You
I
did.
don't know how many there were, but there were a lot. There were a lot that went to Scotland, which was great when we actually got out in the field and you kind of could see them then as you went through the mission and stuff, like, oh, it's MTC. And yeah, so that was nice to see, like some of the, like I remember Elder Aurelio. I think it's Elder Aurelio. Is that
Yeah.
his name?
Yeah. Salvatore.
Okay, so I always remember he, because you used to have to sing and stuff at the MTC. You know, they make you sing a lot. And so he was in in the district. I'm pretty sure he was in our district. And he was just like, oh, I can't sing. I don't like singing. I was like, okay, well, you can do this. You know, trying to be a good sister and holding him up. And anyway, one afternoon, we were walking, my companions and I were walking down the corridor. We heard the most beautiful piano playing, like music coming from this classroom. I was like, who's playing that? That's amazing. Long and behold, Elder Aurelio. I was like, hang on a minute. You said you weren't musical. You said you couldn't sing. You could do this. He was like, oops. So I always remembered that. I always remember that cheekiness.
Yeah, that's pretty funny because that's perfect description of Elder Aurelio. I mean,
yeah. He didn't get away with it after that, I tell you. He was playing.
Nope, he didn't. That's right.
Yeah, so MTC was fun, and we had President Vriens. I don't know if you had him or remember him. So he was fun.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, no, I really enjoyed him. Did he do the ant song with you?
I don't remember that. That's not something. I mean, I just
remember him singing to us one Sunday afternoon. I was like, it was all about his little ant, and I was just like, what's going on? I was just really confused. I don't remember the message he was trying to say because I'm just like, I really don't understand what's going on here. But yeah, no, I loved President Bodine. It was good, Sister Bodine.
Man, you had a little bit of a different experience than us because you drove like probably a few streets over to go to the MTC, where we were so jet lagged for the first week and a half that I don't remember the MTC as well as I'm sure I should have.
I know, I literally was 10 minutes down the road.
Yeah, a little bit different experience altogether.
And I used to work on the temple site as well prior to my mission.
Oh, okay.
I think it was after my mission. I can't remember now. But like I knew like all of the people in the distribution center and up at the temple, and it was just like, hi. And like, are you not gone yet? I was like, no, not yet. I'm going.
That's great.
Yeah,
it's good.
It's fun. All
right, well then take us up to Scotland and I guess you started the mission home.
Okay, so I just remember it being raining. I remember we got the train up, and don't ask me who. I think Elder Egan met us. I think he must have had some important job then. I don't know whether he was assistant or I don't know. As a new sister missioner, I was just like, I don't know where I am. I don't know who these people are. I just know they've got tags and they look like missionaries, so I'll just follow them. And so I can't remember which station it is in Edinburgh, but I just remember it being there. And then you go to the mission home and you were given like a companion for the afternoon, and we went chapping, and it was absolutely chucking it down. And I was in this, really nice suit as a sister missionary, the neck scarf and all the rest of it, prim and proper, and this wave of water just all over my tights.
Oh, God.
And my dolly shoes. And I'm just like, okay, we're going to have to get new shoes that are going to be acceptable in Scotland. This is ridiculous. I can't do this. But yeah, so that was fun. And I just remember we went out in Edinburgh, and the hills, like, they were like this. And then everyone was on like the top floor of something. And I was just like, okay, baptism by fire. This is what this is. But I do remember going into the mission home and meeting Sister Vriens and President Vriens, and I just fell in love with them. I honestly, like Sister Vriens, I just remember she was like, her big arms. And she could hug you, and just like the sisters, she just wouldn't let go of. So I was just like, okay, I'll just stay here. That's fine. Yeah, no problem.
Yeah. That's great.
So yeah, that was fun. And then we did the Pratt's Hill. I think everybody would have done that.
Yep.
But I remember thinking, bearing in mind I have this heart condition, and I'm going up Pratt's Hill, and I was just like, Heavenly Father, I'm going to die before I've even done any work. Like, what are you doing to me? But I didn't, so it was fine. I had to take a few breaths when I got to the top. But yeah, no, I survived Pratt's Hill. That was good. I have to say, other than climbing at the end of my mission, I've not done it since. So it's just not
fair enough. Absolutely fair.
Yeah. But yeah. So I think we only stayed over one night, and then we were straight into the field. I'd met my trainer, who was Sister Amy Webb.
Yeah.
And she was English, which I was very happy about.
Mm-hmm.
However, she was a Geordie, and nothing against Geordies, love them, but I couldn't understand a word that she was saying to me. And I've spoken to Sister Webb about this. So we were in Kirkcaldy, which is in Fife.
Nice.
They've got a thick accent there. So for the first 2 to 3 weeks, I thought I was on a foreign mission. I was just like, right, I don't understand my companion. I don't understand these members. I am English, and you are speaking English, but I haven't a clue what you're saying. Just like, I said to Sister, where I was just like, what did they just say? And then I was like, okay, you're gonna have to slow down because I don't understand what you're saying either. It was just, yeah, I don't understand that myself, but
at that moment you were on a foreign speaking mission.
I was on a foreign speaking mission.
We all, I mean, Jack and I can relate. Jack was in the Kirkcaldy ward in Glenrothes, and I served in Dunfermline, so we're all kind of in that area. I understand what that was like. Yeah,
no, I did question that. I was just like, no, they said it was English speaking. Snapping. But we got there, and you pick up the lingo, don't you? And
oh yeah,
and you pick up that speed that the Scots speak with.
Right.
Yeah, so that was fun. But Sister Webb, I love Sister Webb, I really do, and I have seen her since the mission. We've met up a couple of times in Chorley, but she was just such a wise sister missionary, I felt. For me, I think she was like the perfect trainer, because she was dead patient. She really was. Because I was struggling physically with the work, and also because I couldn't understand anything. But she was just so patient, and she was a hard worker as well. So she, we'd be memorizing, because we used to have to memorize and pass things off. I can't remember what we used to call it, but what was it called?
Scriptorian.
That's it, scriptorian. I don't think I ever got it, if I'm honest with you. Memorization. I'm in good company then.
Yeah.
Memorization is just not my forte. Even seminary scriptures, I remember some, and then others, and over my head. If I can find them in the book, we're okay.
That's right. That's why we have the book, right?
Exactly. That's why there's highlighters and stickers and all sorts.
Very true.
Yeah, so Sister Webb, I think I annoyed Sister Webb, though, if I'm honest with you, because I was one of those annoying greenies that was just super enthusiastic about everything. And I look back now and I was just like, oh, Becky, you were annoying. You would have annoyed yourself now. Looking back. Because I was just like, we're going to go scatter sunshine. We're going to go be really loving and friendly. And Sister Webb, I can't remember how long she'd been out, but she's just like, okay, all you, Sister McLean, off you go. you just go. And I'd be singing and I would be singing, but to be honest, it was to try and help me get up a hill, because that's what I used to do as a kid, is I'd sing a song to get me up a hill. So a lot of the time Sister Webb would be like, are you singing again? I'm like, yeah, we're going up a hill again. So I got some motivation.
That's brilliant.
But yeah, but I think we got on really well, Sister Webb and I. And we just did some funny things. Like, I think when we used to write to President, we'd send a letter to the APs as well. And we made a little spider and tooth. We were called Spider and Tooth to ourselves. We thought we were well cool. So, because Sister Webb, Spider, and I was McLean, which was toothpaste, so we were Spider and Tooth. We were well cool. That died very quickly, though.
That's amazing.
The thing you have to do, though, I think, just to kind of, I don't know, keep going sometimes.
Buoy yourself up.
Absolutely.
That's it.
But yeah, no, she is great. And I remember she was very good at connecting with the saints there. And she went into the Coddy ward, and there just seemed to be a real bond between Sister Webb and the members. Like, they were a really good ward, actually. They were looking after the missionaries. I'm trying to remember the name of the bishop. I can't.
So Bishop Jack.
Was it Bishop Jack? Yeah, Bishop Jack. Yeah, and I just remember their kindness and just that bond that Sister Webb had, and we were able to kind of build that together. Yeah, so that was pretty cool, and a really good area. And one of my first investigators that I'd kind of started teaching, we chapped in, was actually a heart specialist, which I thought was awesome.
Wow.
Because we chapped in and we were chatting and stuff, and so his name was Jim, and as you do, you kind of get to know your investigators a little bit, and they want to know about you, so you kind of share your story. And he was just like, oh yeah, I'm a retired heart surgeon, heart specialist. I was like, no way, this is weird. So, but cool.
That's cool.
Yeah, I remember that. And we had some amazing families in that area. So I think I was there till the December. So from the July to December, that was quite a big chunk of my mission, really. So I only had 3 areas in the whole of my mission, but I was only there for a year. So, but we had some amazing families. We remember we met this family called the Hazel family, and that's just, you just remember certain individuals, don't you, from your mission? And Hazel family were just wonderful, a really wonderful family. They never pursued anything. Things kind of went a little bit, I wouldn't say sour, but we had been teaching them for a while, and he was a member, but hadn't been to church for, 30 odd 40 years. Had married, had children, so none of his family were members. And I remember we'd go over and we wouldn't really teach, but he would invite us in, and they'd have family home evening and stuff like that, but without any religion in there, just spending time together and discussing topics and things like that. So we were kind of like, oh, this is really, this is what we're all about. And I remember President had asked us to kind of be bold. Like, okay, we'll be bold, be obedient, we'll be bold. So we went and we spoke to Brother Hazel, and was kind of like, listen, can we come and teach your family? And he didn't like that, unfortunately. So our ties after that were kind of cut. And it's one of those families that I look back and think, oh, I wonder where they are now. I wonder what they're doing. And didn't really keep in contact with them. So, but I do remember, and again, they lived at the top of a hill. I was just like, why? So, walking up this hill. We took buses everywhere then.
Yeah, I'm thinking your apartment was at the top of a hill and on the top floor, right? And then the church is up a hill. You just find investigators who are up the hill.
Yeah.
It's quite the
everywhere.
intro.
Everywhere. But you know, Sister Webb was really good because she knew all the buses. She was so organised. Like I was in awe of her. I was just like, how do you know all this? Because I'm rubbish. Well, I was really bad with directions and mapping. That just wasn't something. I'm really grateful for Google and like sat nav. It saves me a lot of the time because my map skills are just horrendous. Even after the mission, even when I was been given a map and said, "Okay, you figure out how we're getting there," I'm like, no, just go round in circles. But you know, it's not one of those gifts I was given. But never mind. So I think what else there was. We just had really lovely investigators. Like we had a guy called Mohammed, and he would just take care of us really well. He never got baptized, even though we could see that you know, learning about Christ and things was kind of changing some of his perspectives, and we had some really interesting conversations with him. But like he would give us bags of shopping to take home, he'd make us dinner, and just the hospitality, I think, of some of the Scots is just next to nothing, really.
Yeah.
That was, like, that's what I remember. I remember that. Trying to think. Oh, I remember. So I can't remember if it was myself or whether it was Sister Webb, because I know that she ended up pulling a disc or something in her back during our time together. But the district leaders at the time, which I'm sure, well, I think it's district leaders, it was Elder Newman and Elder Brownlow. Yeah. Tom Brownlow. So they had come over to give us a sickness blessing. It's probably for both of us, to be perfectly honest. And I'm pretty sure Sister Webb was a knitter, or that we decided to take up knitting, you know, in all that free time that we had. But I have a picture somewhere and I couldn't find it, but I've got Elder Newman and Elder Brownlow learning to knit. I was very impressed because they were really kind of good at that. It was very good.
Neither of them would ever admit that.
No, that's what I was telling you. I've seen both. Well, I've seen Elder Newman since the mission, many years ago now. But yeah, I just chuckle at that memory of like, yeah. And I was really impressed actually. They knew how to, you know, keep it straight and not drop anything. So it's good.
That's funny.
But yeah. And I do remember having to go back to the hospitality of the members and investigators. And I don't know if you had this, but it's like you would go from appointment to appointment, or like if you were chapping, you know, you'd be invited in or whatever. And so they say, "Oh, do you want a cup of tea?" "Oh, no, we don't drink tea." And they'd be like, "What?" "Just some water's fine." "Oh, okay. Well, do you want a biscuit?" "No, have some cake." And so every house, you kind of felt obliged, didn't you, to kind of have a biscuit or a piece of cake. Or, well, I ended up putting some weight on my mission, and to the point where if I put weight on it, I can feel the effects of it quite quickly. In carrying extra weight is not great for my heart, so I had to put a caveat on. I was just like, "Listen, if we're going in, I can't eat anything." I said, "I've had 3 teas already. I can't." Oh, this. So we had to like really politely say to our investigators, like, "Sister McLean's on a diet. Like, Sister Webb can have something if she wants, but Sister McLean, she's got to stay off this." It's just like, that's not really me, but I did explain.
But
they were very good about it.
You had good reason. You had good reason.
Yeah, they were very good about it. Or I'd stash them, you know, like in your pocket for when you're out walking all day and think, "Oh, I just need a bit of energy." Well, yeah,
right.
So that's fun.
Very, very good.
So yeah, so that was Sister Webb. We had fun, and as I say, I'm glad she was my trainer. I think she was struggling in the mission at that time. I don't think she'll mind me saying that, and that's why I say I think I was a bit annoying, because I was bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and singing all the time, and but actually, she did me the world of good. So that was good. And then came Sister Cahoon. So I stayed in Kirkcaldy, and Sister Cahoon came in, and if I remember correctly, it was her last 6 weeks. So it's her last transfer. And so we only had 6 weeks together, but we had so much fun. she is a hoot. I love Sister Cahoon. I really do. She is just so funny. I just remember laughing a lot with Sister Cahoon. And she was a hard worker as well. The President had put me some hard-working sisters. And I remember one night we had been out, and this was just before Christmas, because my next transfer would have been Christmas. This is like the October, November, and it gets really cold in Kirkcaldy at that time of year. But we had been out, and we had just had not a miserable day, but just one of those days where the appointments had fallen through, and nobody was answering and things like that. And I was freezing. Like, I feel the cold. I was cold. And we'd got the bus home, but we still had some time before we had to be in. So Sister Cahoon's like, let's just go chapping. Just go chapping for the last 20 minutes. I'm like, be obedient, Becky, be obedient, be obedient. So I was like, okay, we'll go chapping. And literally 10 seconds later, I was like, Sister Cahoon, we are not going chapping. I am freezing. We're going home. I can't do this. It's just ridiculous. I can't feel my toes. I can't feel my fingers. So we're going home. And bless her. I know that she just wanted to really push those last 6 weeks. And she did. But she could see, and she was just like, okay, Sister McLean, we'll go back to the flat. And we did. And I was very grateful for that, because I was just like, if I have to knock one more door and not feel it, I'm not going to be best pleased. But a cool experience was that we actually saw the Northern Lights. I don't know if it was that night or one of those nights, because it was so cold and quite high up there. We did actually see the Northern Lights. I always remember that. I think, that's Heavenly Father just saying, it's all right. Off you go, get warm. So,
that is cool.
Yeah. So that was fun. I was conscious that I was sending her home, and that she wanted to go on high. So that was a good 6 weeks of hard labour. But and we would talk. Sister Cahoon was great at just stopping anybody and everybody. She would just talk to anybody. And I'd be like, oh, come on. It's terrible, isn't it, really? As a sister missionary, I shouldn't have been like that, but I was a bit. But anyway, it's all good. But she had a great spirit about her. And so I love Sister Cahoon. I do. I think I love all my companions. I haven't really had a bad one, if I'm honest with you. I was quite fortunate, quite blessed in the companions that I had. I think I was the pain, because I had to slow them all down. I was like, no, we're not working as hard as that. I'm sorry. But I do remember, I'm pretty sure it was around, as either Sister Cahoon or with Sister Webb, but I ended up conducting at a zone conference. Now, I don't conduct. Music is not a talent of mine. And even now, I'm not very good at conducting the music. But I was with Sister Webb, that was right. It was one of my first ones. And I didn't realise that you just had the assignment there and then. So you wouldn't find out you were doing anything until you got there. So I'm looking in the booklet that is printed, and I'm like, oh, why is my name there? Conductor? Conducting what? Sister Webb's like, you're conducting the music. I was like, am I? Nobody's asked me. What do you mean I'm conducting the music? It's not how we do it. If people ask you, don't just get told. Anyway, it was abysmal. It was the worst conducting, because I had never conducted in my life. It was just abysmal. Anyway, the zone conference comes again. So Elder White, I think, it must have been AP or something at the time, or he was over something. He had assigned me for conducting. I set a goal in between. I would learn to conduct at least one song, which was the mission song. So, I know that's cool, so we'll do it. So I get up there and I'm like, dead confident I'll do this. And I don't know if any of you were at that conference, but I was swinging my arm to the 2/4 beat or whatever it is, and I'm there and I'm going, and you know, to the Praise the Man tune and the Scotland the Brave or whatever, and I'm there and I'm waiting and I'm going like this, and I'm just completely enjoying myself. I thought, yeah, nailed it. And then a couple of weeks later, I get a card in the post with a picture of a cowgirl on it saying, thanks for conducting a conference system. It was a blast. Of Elder White, and I can't remember who else it was at the time. And it just made me howl something from it. And I think I got asked one more time. I thought, okay, yeah, we'll do it. We'll do the cowgirls.
Gosh. That's
But
amazing.
yeah, I remember that. Oh, I can't actually sing that song without reminiscing and, you know, going to the cowgirl in my head.
Oh my.
So yeah, that was fun.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Oh, too funny. That kind of brings us up to Christmas, I guess. Just before Christmas, transfers came in. So Sister Gahoon was going home. And they actually, I think they closed the area to sisters then. And I was put in a tri-companionship in Dundee with Sister Webb again, so Sister Amy Webb again, and Sister Alison Barker. Yeah. That was a hoot. So Sister Webb seemed to be enjoying the mission so much more than when she was training me. And Sister Barker, she just had like infectious energy. I don't know if you ever served around Sister Barker, but she
was an MTC with me.
Okay, so, and we were all English. We were the 3 English sisters together. It was brilliant. So yeah, so we're in Dundee, and to be honest, I was so excited when I got the call. I was like, oh, Dundee, amazing! Not been to Dundee. I don't even think I'd been there before, or if I had, it was when I was a little girl, you know, years and years and years ago. Got to Dundee, and I was like, what on earth is President thinking? Like, I don't know if any of you, sir, like that. Like that.
Lots of hills.
Not even like that, you know, like that. And again, our flat was on the top floor. I think we had these stairs. I've got a picture somewhere where I had to stop halfway on these flights of stairs. I think there's about 4 or even 5 flights of stairs. Sister Barker, full of energy, runs up the stairs to get me a drink. And I think Sister Webb stays with me and comes back down. And I'm just like, I've never been so grateful for this glass of water in my life. I'm just like, so yeah, I just say, what is he thinking? Putting me on the 3rd or 4th floor. This is ridiculous. Not even lifts. Come on now. But yeah. So that was definitely, I think the trial of my mission was just hills. That was what it was. It was hills. And we didn't have a car. You don't have a car in Dundee because, well, you just don't. And you're either busing it or walking it. But as I said before, Sister Webb was so organised. And I have a feeling that President had prepped them in saying, you know, Sister McLean, she's going to need some help. You're just going to have to try and get public transport wherever you can, kind of thing. And they did an amazing job of looking after me. I am really grateful for those sisters. We had a bit of a standoff at one point. So in England, we have, I don't know if you have it over there, we have like a flu vaccine every year.
Yep.
Yeah.
So because of my health, I'm supposed to have this flu vaccine. Now, back then, I was just like, oh, I'm not doing injections. Don't need that. I'm fine. You know, don't do my medication. I'm fine. I'll just crack on. My companions were wiser than me and more stubborn. So it was a case of the stubbornness of Sister McLean versus the stubbornness of Sister Webb and Sister Barker. So we ended up going out to town to do some shopping. And I wasn't great with maps or areas or things like that, but I was just like, this does not look like the shopping centre. I was like, where are we? So they booked me a flu jab appointment, and they took me to the doctors, and they were like, you're having your flu jab. I know you're supposed to have it, so you're having it. I was so mad. I try not to get mad, but I was so mad with these two. I was like, I hate injections. What am I doing? I couldn't believe it. I was like, I can't believe you two. Can't believe that you'd go behind my back and. I did forgive them, and it was great because I didn't catch the flu. And I have learnt my lesson since. They will be happy to know that I didn't have a flu jab one year, and I came down with the flu really bad. And so I was like, should just remember Sister Webb and Sister Barker, flu jab every year. So I had my flu jab yesterday. They will be happy about that, I'm sure.
Oh,
yeah,
goodness.
no, I remember that. But and we taught. Our teaching pool was always full, which I'm coming to understand, or I was coming to understand that isn't always the case. But we were really blessed in the sense, or lucky, I don't know what the word would be, but to have teaching appointments kind of quite regularly and constant. And I remember we went to teach. I think it was a Church of England, or it could have been a Church of Scotland minister or something. And Sister Barker, she loved it. And I was just like, what are we doing? It's like, it's not going to go anywhere. I don't know anything that he knows. Like, I don't know as much as him. What the heck are we doing? And she loved it. She was just like in it. And we had, I can't remember if we had a baptism or we had a near baptism there, a lady called Denise, remember her? But she really struggled with word of wisdom and things like that. But just to see her, her faith in applying some of those principles that she was taught, even though it was really hard for her, you could see that it just, even health-wise, it made a big difference to her. But yeah, no, I remember that. And we had Christmas there. Christmas was great. My mum had sent huge package for all three of us, and actually Bishop Jack very kindly, because I hadn't been able to get the address to my mum in time, but she knew Kirkcaldy's address, so Jack had arranged to get that to us, which was really kind of him, so yeah, I really appreciate that. Where else? I'm just looking at my notes here. Done this. Yeah, and I remember we went carol singing. So even though I don't do singing, I do carols. I like singing carols. And Sister Barker used to play guitar and write songs and stuff, which I thought was pretty cool, because I was like, I don't have that talent. I can draw, but I can't sing. So, but we would do carol singing. And so I think it was Elder Kellogg and Elder Muirhead. I think that's right, Elder Kellogg and Elder Muirhead. Yeah. Were in that area around the same time. I'm sure there must have been another set of elders, because I'm sure there was a few of us. Because we went to. Have any of you served around Dundee? No.
I was in Montrose for quite a while, okay. So I was in and out of Dundee, but not serving in there.
Okay, so there was the Keogh family. They're a huge family. So we had Christmas with them. It was great. Loved it.
Oh man,
loved it.
Great family.
Yeah, really good family. Yeah, again, just a fun time, and really seeing that we were always busy. But by that point, as you would imagine, I was pretty tired, pretty worn out. And so I was transferred in the January, February, whenever the transfer was after Christmas, into Ayr, and that's where I finished up. So I finished up in Ayr, on the west side, like that. And we had a car. It was awesome. We had a car, and I was just like, I was ready for a car. And again, just amazing members in that ward, really took care of the sisters, and had really good bonds with the missionary work. We even went on the local radio. So one of the members, I can't remember his name now, I've met him a couple of times in the temple, but he ran the local radio station, or he did a radio show, whatever. So he invited myself and my companion, my sister Stamis, so Sister Lauren Stamis, invited us onto the radio station, and that was fun. I have no idea what we talked about, but I just remember it being quite a fun experience. Like, never done this before. Let's go. But yeah, and everybody kept feeding us there too. And it was just like, biscuit after biscuit after biscuit. Like, and I'm in a car, so I'm not even burning any of it off. It's like, not good. But yeah, so Sister Stanis. Oh, my heart honestly is just full for that sister. I love her to pieces. I really do. And as I say, I think I loved all my companions. Sister Stanis really helped me, like, on another level. And I probably infuriated her because at that point, I believe that Sister Stanis was renowned in the mission for ploughing on and doing and just being a powerhouse, which she was. She totally was. But as I had understood it, the President had spoken to Sister Stanis prior to me coming and was like, you're going to have to take care of Sister McLean. She's going to need to be taken care of a little bit. And so I had a rule in place that I had to take a nap. Now, I think that rule was in place previously. Whether or not I stuck to it, probably not, as well as I should have done. Because to me, and like I've grown a lot since my mission, but back then I refused to kind of acknowledge that I had an issue. I refused to acknowledge that I was going to be kind of hemmed in. It's like, no, I'm here, I'm serving, I'm going, and I'm doing like everybody else. And forgetting that I wasn't like everybody else physically. Like, that just wasn't in my hand. So she's like, the President's like, you need to have a nap. So we would have to come in and take a nap. And Sister Stanis was very good at enforcing that in the nicest way of using that word. she enforced that. And I kicked back. I'll be honest, I did kick back because I saw it as a bit of a failure on my part. And I didn't like that. It's a bit of resistance there from me. But I was grateful for Sister Stanis because she could see, no, you need to do this. And there were other things as well that she really kind of helped me. She was just amazing, like on emotional levels and things like that. That she was really there for me when I needed it. So I will always be grateful for Sister Stanis and her wisdom and her love and her care. And we had a hoot. We did, all that aside, we had a blast, and we were always teaching, and we were teaching this great guy called Stan. I don't think he ever quite made it to the waters because there was some issues with his family where they were dead set against him joining. But he had that desire, you can see that desire. But yeah, we enjoyed that. And then Sister Stanis was transferred. I can't remember, did she go home? I can't remember if she went home or if she had another transfer. Because I had another couple of months, because I had Sister Miller. Sister Martha Miller was my final companion in the field. And we, again, I love Sister Miller. I really, I think we understood each other. So I think you've had Sister Miller on before. I've seen her podcast. And so she had health issues as well. And I think President's idea was put the two together, they will have to slow down. So that's kind of what happened, is we were put together, and we knew. And I remember going to interviews, and President would be like, Sister McLean, have you been behaving yourself? And I'm like, yeah, of course I have. He's like, have you been nothing? I'm like, yeah, of course I have. And he's like, oh, Sister McLean, I'm going to get my paddle out. I'm gonna give you what for. And Sister Miller would have the same kind of conversation. So President would, as far as I can remember, be like, are you behaving? Yeah. Do you want me to get my paddle out? So one interviews, and I have it somewhere. I can't for life me. I tried finding it, I couldn't find it. We made him a paddle, and we presented it to him at interviews. So we'd got like a wooden spoon and a cushion, and we'd written on with like permanent marker or something, President's paddle, and and I have never heard President howl with laughter like when we handed that over to him. He just rocked back in his chair and just let it out.
It's great.
So yeah, that was fun. So Sister Miller and I had a lot of fun with that, and we did. We were obedient to that, and it was surprising to see how the work still was happening, even though we had to take an hour out each day. And I do remember doing this throughout my mission, but it was more so those last two companions where they were like, we are. And maybe they could see it on my face. I don't know, because my face says whatever's going on. I don't have a poker face at all. So yeah, that was and we had a car accident with Sister Mill. I had a car accident with Sister Mill. I think she alluded to that in her. And I can't remember if it was my fault or their fault. It was a wet day. But that was fun. Not sure that's a word to use, but interesting. But I remember we sent the battered wheel to the APs at the time as a present. We'd found the wheel trim, and Sister Miller would do stuff like that all the time. She'd go, yeah, I sent stuff to the APs all the time. Like, yeah. So we post this wheel trim off. I have no idea who was in the office at the time, but they got a battered wheel. But yeah, we got on so well, and we had some amazing teaching opportunities and just amazing people. And funnily enough, when we were out tracting one day, I actually met my sister and her boyfriend in Ayr. So then I'm walking along, and Sister Miller and I were just chatting, and I look up, I was like, that's my sister. What is she doing here? And she just ran over. She's like, Sister McLean. She gave this biggest hug. I was like, what are you doing here? Like, it's nice and all, but this is just bizarre. And that's just one of those things, I think, being English and being in a UK mission, that's kind of going to happen. She was up for a bike rally. She's into bikes and stuff like that with her boyfriend. So she was up for a bike rally in that weekend. So that was an interesting half an hour on my mission. It's just bizarre.
She didn't even tell you she was going to be there?
No, he never wrote to me. That were very, very, very rarely did my sister. I was reading through some letters in preparation for this I'd sent to my mum, and I'd be like, will you tell my siblings to write to me, please? Because this is ridiculous. I need to know that they're all right. I want to know what's going on in their lives. But yeah, no, they were too busy, having fun and enjoying life and whatnot. So that was funny. And then my mum actually, so I had made the decision to go home, and to go home early, and that was a really hard decision to make, because I loved the work. I loved not necessarily the work, but I loved the connections that you were making with people, and I loved the Scots, and I loved being around other missionaries and having a purpose, and just I don't know, you just felt like you were doing good, and so I didn't want to give up, but then I had to balance it with, if you don't, you're going to end up being really sick. Or you may not have a choice and you may have to, be sent home, kind of thing. So President was really good about it. He kind of, he had taken me to one side at an interviews and was like, do you need to speak to me? And I'm like, yeah, I do. And it was just a really hard conversation, but he made it very easy, because he's just like, listen, you have really given your all, so don't feel bad for going home or anything. If that's what you need to do, go pray about it, go make that decision, and you let me know. So I did, and I knew it was right time to kind of go. So Sister Miller and I, both made those decisions, and I made that decision. Sister Miller had her own decisions to make, and I had spoke to my mum via email very briefly, just to kind of say, President's going to call you. This is what's happening. I'm coming home. I'm beat. I've given everything, and I'm done. So I was going to, go to the end of the transfer kind of thing, and then go home. And I think there was only a couple of weeks until the end of the transfer anyway. So it was getting near to when I was going home. And for me, I'll be jumping on a train from Edinburgh down to Preston, and then get my family to meet me there. However, it was a Sunday morning, and I was in ward correlation in the air ward, because I used to do them before meetings, and the meeting was going, we're chatting away, we're talking about investigators, all the rest of it, and all of a sudden the meeting kind of stops, and I'm like, what are we stopping for? And I turn around, and my mum's there in the meeting. Like, what are you doing here? She's just like, surprise. So she'd had permission from President, and they'd arranged all this, and so my mum actually stayed in the mission flat with us for a couple of days, and then she was going to be my companion home on the train. But that was bizarre. I was like, okay, what other missionary is going to have that in their mission story? I don't think there's going to be anybody.
That's definitely a first on this podcast. I don't think any missionary has ever mentioned that their mom came and had a couple sleepovers at their flat.
No. So mum, she donned not a badge as such, but and she would come out. I was like, Mum, if you're here, it's not a holiday. We've got appointment after appointment after appointment. I said, I'm sorry. and she's like, fine, let's go do it. And so she came with us for our last few appointments and stuff. So that was fun. That was fun. And then that was kind of the end of my mission in Scotland, and came home and adjusted as best as you can when you get home from such a whirlwind of connection and opportunity and things like that. So yeah,
that's wonderful.
That was good.
Well, you've mentioned quite a few of your fond memories of President Sister Vriens. Is there any other particulars that stand out to you when you come to remembering them?
Oh, just Sister Vriens. Well, her laugh, like both of them, they just had these laughs that I couldn't do justice to try and do them, but they were just, they were funny. I don't know. Sister Vriens, she had like a little wicked wink, like a you know that she could do some practical joking when she wanted to. Like, I understood that about Sister Vriens, and I was just like, you go, girl.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sister Vriens did not shy away from sharing her personality with us. Any semblance.
And I think I love that. I think that's what I love most about Sister Vriens, is she was just her, and she was okay with it. She didn't think she had to change or dial anything down, or she she was her. What President Vriens thought of that, I'm sure he thought the world of Sister Vriens, but you know, I think sometimes he might have been like, "What's she doing again?"
He had that patented. He would do this with his giant hands.
Yeah.
Or he would just sit back and he would just shake his head back and forth, like, "Are you kidding me?"
Yeah.
Very, very fun.
That's fun.
Well, good. Well, Rebecca, we really appreciate you making time to come on and share your memories with us. Is there anyone, I mean, you've mentioned your companions, and we still got to get in touch with Amy and Allison, which we'll work on. Is there any other missionaries that you spent time around that you haven't heard from on the podcast that you need us to run down and get them on here in the future?
Oh, I don't know. Because I say I came out with a bunch of them. I'm trying to remember. And you may have had some of them because I've not watched all of your podcasts. But
here, I'll give you the list of those that have been from your MTC group.
Okay.
So we have talked to Elder Aurelio. We had Nathan Reed on.
Yeah.
Dan Conway was on. Brennan Fish and Craig Rasmussen. Brock Wilkie. We recently had Matt Fisher on the podcast.
Oh, okay.
And we have spoken with Charles Noble. So
I remember Charles from the MTC, yeah.
But those that were missing, I mean, Chris Jones, Matthew Derricott, Sean Bird, Patrick Scanlon, Jared Lineker.
I'm not sure I served around him, but I have seen him since.
Brian Rhodes. I have on my list Brother and Sister Lemon, which we have talked to. They just haven't come on our podcast yet, so we're working on them.
I remember.
And then also Allie Malin, which we've heard she's a little bit hesitant. So Allie, come on the podcast. We'd love to have you.
Allie, I want to know what you're up to.
No, you had a great group of MTC mates that came along with you, which is great.
Yeah, they were a good bunch. Well, thank you. Like, it really has been nice to look back and kind of remember some of those experiences. And you know, I look back and I kind of, what I take away from my mission is that connection, like I mentioned before, and just the importance of, even if it was just that brief time, to be connected to another person. You know, it's quite quite an honor, really, when we think back on all the people that we were able to connect with just for a brief time in our lives. So yeah, I appreciate that. So thank you for connecting with me as well.
Of course. No, you said it best earlier when you said you love your companions, and it's true. I mean, for those of us that spent time with each other and grew fond of one another, there is that love that comes from that. And this is what this podcast is about, is expressing love to each other for the camaraderie that we all had in that, like you said, that season of time in Scotland together, serving that great land and the wonderful people there. And that's what this is all about. So thank you for saying that.
No, you're welcome. Thank you.
Well, good. Well, we'll express our love again to you for being our sister in Scotland. Thank you, Rebecca, for coming on and sharing with us. And I'm sure we'll be in touch more and more.
Yeah, super. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
All right, then. Cheerio. Have a good night.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.